The labels we wear are the cages we build. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast, hosted by LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. I recently had the profound opportunity to sit down with Wanda Brown, a woman whose voice is reshaping how we think about unity, authenticity, and love within our communities. Wanda Brown is not just making waves, she's creating tsunamis of transformation for Black professionals and entrepreneurs who have been boxed in, labeled, and divided for far too long. Her work is a clarion call to reclaim our collective strength, to reject the narratives that diminish us, and to build networks rooted in unconditional love and ancestral wisdom. Wanda is a peacemaker who loves everyone and is not afraid to show it. She wishes to be identified as a warrior, a child of God, a victorious queen, not a victim, not a bitter soul. And today I want to share the insights from my conversation with Wanda Brown because what she revealed challenges everything we've been taught about strength, survival, and success. Let me ask you something. How many of us have been taught that to survive, we must compete, that to rise, someone else must fall, that to be seen as strong, we must wear labels that others assign to us, even when those labels cut deep into our souls? We've been conditioned to believe that division is natural, that judgment is inevitable, and that the path to success is paved with individualism. But what if I told you that this belief, this deeply ingrained assumption, is the very thing keeping us from the freedom, joy, and power we deserve? Wanda Brown shared something with me that stopped me in my tracks. She said that the greatest threat to Black professionals and entrepreneurs is not external opposition. It's the aggression we turn on each other. It's the labels we accept. It's the boxes we climb into willingly because we think that's where we belong. And she's right, because when we look at the data, when we examine the stories, when we listen to the voices crying out for help, we see a pattern. We see a community that has been taught to survive by any means necessary, even if it means tearing each other down. Consider this. Research shows that only 30% of Black adults in Oklahoma with mental health conditions seek treatment. 30%. That means 70% are suffering in silence, carrying grief, trauma, and pain alone because cultural stigma tells them that asking for help is weakness. Nationally, only 1 in 3 Black Americans who need mental health care actually receive it. And why? Because we've been taught to suppress our emotions, to handle everything in the church pew, to never admit that we're struggling. We've been taught that therapy is not for us, that vulnerability is dangerous, that showing softness will cost us respect. But here's the counterintuitive truth that Wanda Brown illuminated for me. The very thing we've been taught to avoid, softness, vulnerability, unconditional love, is the thing that will set us free. The labels we've accepted, the boxes we've climbed into, the judgments we've internalized, they are not protecting us. They are imprisoning us. And the only way out is to reject them entirely. Let me tell you about a man named Josh Cobb. Josh is a Black man living in St. Paul, Minnesota, and he saw something that broke his heart. He saw his brothers, Black men just like him, struggling in silence. He saw the stigma. He saw the distrust of healthcare. He saw the lack of Black mental health professionals. And instead of accepting the narrative that Black men don't do therapy, he decided to do something revolutionary. Josh created the Black Parachute, a free 365-day guided journal designed specifically to support Black men's mental health. This journal doesn't belittle, it doesn't label, it doesn't shame. It simply asks reflective questions tailored to the Black experience, giving men a private, stigma free space to process their emotions. Josh didn't wait for the system to change. He didn't accept the box. He built a parachute. And in doing so, he challenged the intra-community judgment that keeps so many of us isolated. He said, you don't have to carry this alone. You don't have to be strong all the time. You can be soft, you can heal. And that is not weakness. That is warrior like strength. Josh's work is set to be released for free with pop ups and tailored questions that speak directly to the lived experiences of Black men. He's not just creating a tool, he's creating a movement. He's challenging us to rethink what strength looks like. He's asking us to consider that maybe, just maybe, the bravest thing we can do is admit that we need help. Now, let me take you to Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's a young man named Newton, and Newton's story will shake you to your core. Newton lost 7 peers to gun violence before he turned 18. 7. Can you imagine carrying that grief? Can you imagine the weight of that trauma? And yet, Newton had no access to counselors, no one to talk to, because in his community, therapy was taboo. The church was the default outlet, and anything beyond that was seen as betrayal. So Newton carried his pain alone, just like so many others. The data backs this up. Black adults are 36% less likely to receive mental health treatment than their counterparts. In Oklahoma, that number drops to 30%. And the reasons are rooted in history: medical racism, slavery era abuses, misdiagnosis, the Tuskegee experiment. We have been given every reason not to trust the system. But here's the tragedy. In our justified distrust of external systems, we've also built walls within our own community. We've turned our pain into judgment. We've turned our survival instincts into aggression toward each other. Wanda Brown calls this intra-community violence. And it's not just physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It's the way we label each other, the way we dismiss each other's struggles, the way we say you're too sensitive, you're not Black enough, you're not strong enough. These labels, these judgments, they divide us, they weaken us, and they keep us from the unity that our ancestors fought and died for. But there's hope. In Tulsa, community leaders are breaking the stigma. They're having public dialogues about unfair treatment. They're normalizing mental health care. They're saying it's okay to not be okay. And in doing so, they're reducing the isolation that comes from intra-community aggression. They're promoting unity over division. They're honoring the strength it takes to ask for help. They're creating spaces where Newton and others like him can finally exhale, finally grieve, finally heal. And then there's the work being done in Dallas by advocates like Barner, who are addressing the loneliness epidemic among Black men. Barner talks about how the perception of emotional admission as weakness is costing us our brothers, how racism, inequities, and over policing create chronic stress that manifests as withdrawal, irritability, and sometimes violence. But instead of blaming individuals, Barner reframes the conversation. He emphasizes structural stressors. He pushes for a cultural shift that says your pain is valid, your struggle is real, and you deserve support. Barner's doing something that's desperately needed. He's helping us see that when we label someone as weak for needing help, we're not protecting them, we're abandoning them, we're perpetuating a cycle of silence that kills. And he's saying enough. Enough with the labels, enough with the judgment, enough with the isolation. It's time to build a community that loves without conditions, that supports without shame, that heals without apology. This is what Wanda Brown means when she talks about rejecting boxes and embracing authentic leadership. She's not just talking about career success, she's talking about spiritual, emotional, and mental recalibration. She's talking about refusing to conform to expected perspectives. She's talking about prioritizing character driven decisions over label driven identities. She's talking about being a peacemaker, a warrior, a child of God, a victorious queen, not a victim, not a bitter soul. And here's where it gets really powerful. Wanda Brown told me that love without judgment is the fuel for entrepreneurial success. Think about that. In a world that tells us to hustle harder, to compete ruthlessly, to guard our secrets and our strategies, Wanda is saying the opposite. She's saying that when we love each other unconditionally, when we support each other without labels, when we build networks rooted in unity and ancestral wisdom, we become unstoppable. This is not soft in the way the world defines it. This is soft in the way our ancestors understood it. Soft like water that carves through stone, soft like roots that break through concrete, soft like a mother's love that protects fiercely. This is the sacred pause. This is the deep exhale from the Superwoman script. This is the quiet but powerful return to softness, rest, self trust, and radical joy. Because here's the truth: we have been taught that survival requires hardness, that success requires isolation, that strength requires silence. But Wanda Brown is showing us a different way. She's showing us that unity amplifies strength, that rejecting boxes fosters innovation, that love without judgment creates platforms for empowerment. And the data supports this. When Black professionals and entrepreneurs unite, when they draw from ancestral wisdom, when they build collective support networks, they thrive. They don't just survive, they flourish. They create businesses that change industries. They build movements that change cultures. They raise children who change the world. But when we succumb to intra-community aggression, when we accept divisive labels, when we judge each other instead of loving each other, we weaken our progress. We undermine our power. We betray the legacy of those who came before us. So here's my question for you. As Black professionals and entrepreneurs, how will you actively reject divisive labels in your networks today? How will you choose unity and unconditional love to honor our ancestors' wisdom and build unbreakable strength? How will you be soft in a world that taught you survival? Because this is not just about mental health. This is not just about business. This is about reclaiming our identity. This is about dropping the superwoman cape. This is about learning to say no without guilt. This is about setting boundaries without apology. This is about resting without explanation. This is about embracing healing, wholeness, softness, and emotional honesty. Wanda Brown is a peacemaker. She loves everyone and she's not afraid to show it. She wishes to be identified as a warrior, a child of God, a victorious queen, not a victim, not a bitter soul. And in her work, she's turning painful experiences into platforms for empowering others. She's defending her beliefs with warrior like strength. She's building a world where Black professionals and entrepreneurs can thrive without labels, without boxes, without judgment. And that world starts with us. It starts with the choices we make today. It starts with the way we speak to each other. It starts with the way we support each other. It starts with the way we love each other. Think about Josh Cobb, who refused to let stigma silence his brothers. Think about Newton, who carried unbearable grief because his community told him therapy wasn't for him. Think about Barner, who's reframing loneliness as a structural issue, not a personal failing. These are not just stories, these are mirrors. They reflect the choices we face every single day. Will we choose judgment or love? Will we choose division or unity? Will we choose labels or liberation? The labels we wear are the cages we build, and the only way to break free is to refuse to wear them, to refuse to assign them, to refuse to accept them as truth. Wanda Brown is leading the way. She's showing us that we can be warriors and peacemakers, that we can be soft and strong, that we can be vulnerable and victorious. She's showing us that our ancestors didn't fight for us to tear each other down. They fought for us to lift each other up. So I'm asking you right now in this moment to make a choice. Choose to reject the labels. Choose to embrace softness. Choose to build unity. Choose to love without judgment. Choose to honor the legacy of every ancestor who fought for your freedom by creating the world they envisioned for us. Because when we do, we don't just change our own lives, we change the world. We create businesses that heal. We build communities that thrive. We raise generations that know their worth. And we honor the legacy of every ancestor who believed we could be more than survivors, we could be free. This is your moment. This is your choice. This is your revolution. Will you join it?